the story of the 1st Infantry Division in Vietnam. Into a new kind of war come the men of the Big Red One. Far from the concepts of trench warfare and front lines of World Wars I and II, today's challenge in Vietnam demands quick assault and rapid mobility techniques. In this conflict, as in every other, the 1st Infantry Division is serving the United States with honor and distinction, no matter what the task, no matter what the sacrifice.
Hey, here we are at lolcow. And I gotta be honest with you, I know lolcow. The highway outside this base is called Thunder Road, because the Viet Cong are always blowing it up. You can always tell when something's gonna happen. The white line gets up and hides in the bushes.
Christmas 1967, and Bob Hope was talking about Highway 13, the important supply artery of the 1st Infantry Division. It is the story and the men and equipment of the 1st Supply and Transport Battalion. Today, we take a close look at that system on duty first.
Traveling with a convoy down Highway 13 is certainly unlike any normal Sunday afternoon drive. A great amount of caution and preparation helps ensure the safe arrival of supplies from the depots of Long Binh to the division's points up north. Each day, hundreds of trucks carry thousands of tons of supplies along Highway 13. No Red Ball Express, the convoys trudge along at about 20 miles per hour. The road is dusty and bumpy, and one can never tell what dangers lurk behind the next bend in the road or behind the next clump of trees. Each morning, the engineers complete a sweep of the road, and it's an unusual morning when they don't uncover at least one mine or one booby trap. So you can see it's not just a matter of forming up the trucks or throwing cargo on the back ends, but a complicated, coordinated process to see that the division receives its supplies safe, sound, and on time.
The executive officer of the 1st S&T is Major James Fowler. He gives an overall look at operations within the battalion.
The 1st S&T Battalion operates principally with 2 sections, with operators and with controllers of the supplies as they flow into the division and down to the units who have requested them. We have a division supply office structure that actually receives the requirements from the units, does the requisitioning and the expediting from the depot. And we have 2 companies, a supply and service company and a transportation truck company, that do the actual handling of the supplies when they arrive in the division. The truck company is used principally for the movement of the supplies from Long Binh to Zion and further up the line to lolcow and the units, whereas the supply and service company run the ration breakdown points, the Class 3 points, and the 2 and 4 yards where all the supplies are held while awaiting either unit pickup or distribution to the units. There are a few other aspects of it. Of course, here in Vietnam, we are also faced with the registration requirement, which is also a portion of our supply and service company. We have a mission to evacuate from the division unserviceable and salvage equipment. This is also handled within our supply and service company.
Captain Gardner Smith is the Assistant Division Supply Officer. He is familiar with the problems of supplying a division.
Many of the problems is availability of supplies, the length of time it takes to actually get the supplies, and then finding out what the customer needs.
What are the types of supplies that the 1st S&T does haul?
Well, we handle all lines of supply with the exception of ammunition and medical. We handle general supply items, ordnance items, engineer construction, engineer barrier material, just about any type of supply item.
From the time supplies arrive in Vietnam until they reach the individual units, many personnel are involved. Captain Smith explains.
Normally, there are 2 types of items that we stock and then items that we do not stock. If it's a request for an item that we do not stock, we call this a fringe item. The request is passed to depot. Depot will receive the item, notify us of release. We receive notification of release, it is either shipped to us on commercial truck, or in some cases we will pick it up on the S&T battalion trucks. It's brought into here, picked up on the formal account records, then released to the unit involved. In some cases, smaller items are placed in our yard area for unit pickup. Other items, or depending on the need of the item, will be shipped to LIK by our truck. Many items come right into LIK from the depot. Many items come into Zion from the depot. It all depends on the type of item. Rations, some perishable rations go by reefer van straight to LIK. General supply items will come into Zion, shipped forward to LIK, where they are broken down by unit, and then of course it goes to the unit either by air or by road, depending on the location of the unit.
Captain Everett is the commanding officer of Company A transport company. He tells us of the function of a transport company.
We're responsible for the transport of supplies for the division. We haul supplies out of the Long Bay and Saigon area into the Zion base camp and then forward to LIK and then the NDPs. We have 4 platoons of vehicles, 3 light platoons of deuce-and-a-half trucks, and 1 platoon of medium or heavy vehicles of 5-ton tractors and 12-ton S&P trailers.
But the job isn't all on the road. Captain Everett explains the extra jobs performed by the men of Alpha Company.
Well, we have a primary responsibility for defense of the battalion perimeter. It's about 800 meters long, and we've done mostly rebuilding of the perimeter. We also have some pretty good basketball teams in the battalion. Company right now has 1 platoon that's on top of the basketball standings.
Sergeant Irwin is the squad leader of a medium truck platoon. He explains the duties of a squad leader.
This entails keeping up with 18 vehicles, the assigned drivers, the assistant drivers, and the non-assigned drivers in my squad. Sometimes it can be pretty hairy, especially when you got 18 people going 18 different directions and you got to keep up with them all at once.
For men like Sergeant Irwin, maintenance takes up a considerable portion of their time. He explains to us.
The minimum amount that we like to spend with each truck every day is at least 50%. Keep it on the road half a day, spend the other half a day in maintenance. The dust, the wind, the rain, monsoon season, everything else contributes to the lubrication problems, and this way we have to lube our trucks at least once every 7 days.
Sergeant Henry Wire is a truck driver of the 1st S&T. We talked to him while driving down Highway 13 recently.
How many times a week do you drive in a convoy down Highway 13?
Well, just about every day.
How long does it usually take to get from LIK to Zion or vice versa?
Oh, anywhere from 2 hours to 2.5 hours, according to what kind of day it is, how big convoy.
So usually many civilians along the road?
Quite a few, all the time, through all the villages and stuff like that.
As we go along, we see signs that say, help keep the Big Red One first in traffic safety. What are some of the safety rules that you've been asked to follow?
As far as convoy goes, supposed to be no more than 15 miles an hour unless you can help it. I mean, you know, if you're behind a convoy and you got to catch up, no passing in the convoy.
What do you do with the 1st S&T other than just drive trucks for convoys?
Well, my main function while I'm a sergeant is supposed to, I run one squad. It's my job to get the trucks out and make sure the motor staples are pulled on them and make sure they can run the convoys and get there and back.
What safety precautions are taken to ensure that the convoy will be able to arrive at its destination safely?
Well, as far as support, we usually have choppers flying over us. We have MPs in front of us run the convoy, and there should be an MP behind us, plus our own Jeep. Each Jeep's got a 60-man on it.
What type of road do you like to drive on? Would you prefer this dry, dusty type road, or would you prefer have a little water on it, rain on it, or what?
Well, I'd rather have this dry road right here, right now, because when the road here, like this road here, when it's got water on it, it's awful slick. It's hard to run a convoy on it, keep the truck on the road.
What about morale on the 1st S&T?
As far as truck driving goes, yes, they like to be on the road. It's the greatest thing on earth, almost. But when it gets back to the company, it's a different story. Nobody messes with you too much while you're on the road.
Now, what about loading and unloading the cargo once it arrives at its destination? Are you responsible for that?
I'm responsible for it when I leave where I'm going, from where I'm going to
fly the destinations, I'm responsible for it. But after it gets there, I'm not responsible for it no more. Who usually unloads the cargo then? We take it from our S&T down Zion to Lock 8. They unload it up there for us. They just take forklifts and unload it. After they get it off, no more our responsibility.
Bravo Company is a supply and service company. The first sergeant, Thomas Enright, tells of his company's mission.
The Company B's mission is to supply the units of the 1st Infantry Division and all attached units with Class 1, Class 2 and 7, and Class 3 items. Class 1 is rations. Company B feeds the division. Class 2 and 7 encompasses such items as footgear, underwear, fatigue uniforms, field equipment. We clothe the division personnel. Our Class 3 section provides petroleum for ground and aircraft type vehicles and oils, greases, and lubricants. We also provide a service in the recovery, identification, and evacuation of battlefield casualties. The forklift section is the backbone of the moving of supplies in the company. Without this section, I'm at a loss for how we would be able to accomplish our mission. So the forklift section plays a very important part in accomplishing the unit mission of keeping the 1st Division units supplied with rations and clothing and equipment and so forth.
Sergeant First Class Richard Cartwright is the personnel staff NCO. He talks about the unique battalion area.
6 or 8 months ago, they started out on a basketball court, which is down at the far end of the battalion area. On the back side of the battalion area, they built a picnic area, which they call the battalion picnic area of this battalion. They've also built a new tower down the road, which they can see the whole battalion at night, due to the fact that if we have an enemy attack, they'll be the first ones alerted. They built a new commo shack back here for the battalion commo, which, like I said before, the men of this battalion built it. We built the revetments at night with flashlights, the whole works. The people here have built it, and as far as I can see and hear in this battalion, we're proud of it.
Keeping Highway 13 open and the supplies rolling is an important job to the men of the 1st S&T. It is an interesting and challenging job, and one they proudly fulfill. Speaking for the 1st Infantry Division, this has been Army Lieutenant Horace Brandt and Army Specialist Bill Johansson.
Duty First, the story of the 1st Infantry Division in Vietnam. Duty First, a presentation to the 1st Infantry Division Information Office in cooperation with the American Forces Vietnam Network. Duty First, the story of the 1st Infantry Division in Vietnam. Into a new kind of war come the men of the Big Red One. Far from the concepts of trench warfare and front lines of World Wars I and II, today's challenge in Vietnam demands quick assault and rapid mobility techniques. In this conflict, as in every other, the 1st Infantry Division is serving the United States with honor and distinction, no matter what the task, no matter what the sacrifice.
Perhaps
Perhaps nothing tells the story of war in Vietnam better than the sound of a Huey. This hard-working aircraft has enabled units like the Big Red 1 to take the war to Charlie no matter where he is. A high degree of professionalism and skill is easily evident in the men who maintain and fly the Huey. Typical Army aviators are found in the 173rd Aviation Company, the Robin Hoods. From their home base in KLIK, called Sherwood Forest, the Robin Hoods have made life miserable for Charlie practically everywhere in the skies over Vietnam. And one who has taken part in an air assault is somewhat aware of the procedures used, but few have had the chance to see firsthand the complex planning that must go into a successful day's work.
The day starts early for the 173rd. Pilots and crews usually catch breakfast long before the sun comes up. Before crank-up time, a final maintenance check is made of every aircraft. Each platoon leader and the pilot for the command and control ship pick up a schedule from the operations office. On the sheet are included the coordinates, time schedules, and call signs to be used for the day. After final preparation, the crews move out to the aircraft. Today we will follow a typical mission.
Control ship is the first aircraft to arrive at the LZ, or landing zone. The ground commander makes a final check with the CNC pilot and points out the exact spot for the troop ships to touch down. On this particular mission, there will be an artillery preparation of the area, then run by the gunships. Specialist Bill Johansson is on board one of the gunships and records the action from this vantage point.
Flying over the skies of Vietnam gives you quite an eerie feeling. Up in the air in one of the gunships, preparing the area for the arrival of the ships which will bring the infantry personnel into the area, the artillery preps the area. You might be able to hear in the background a lot of loud booming. As I look down upon the LZ, artillery rounds are striking all around the LZ, turning the whole area into a massive cloud of smoke and fire. This gunship coordinates with artillery, the PMC ship. The whole operation is one great amount of coordination. The artillery continues to prep the area, the proposed landing zone. We await now the arrival of the sorties which carry the infantry into the area. A massive display of firepower. Down below it, the earth is pockmarked with all kinds of craters from artillery and airstrike fire. The area is very dense. A lot of growth in the area here. The whole area of the landing zone, the whole area is becoming engulfed in the smoke from the artillery around. Pilots now are hovering the area. The gunners on the ship are very alert, keeping their eye on the ground below. Should they receive fire, their first action will be to return the fire, to seek out the enemy, to report the enemy position, and meanwhile the artillery keeps firing. The area will be very well prepped before the infantry is dropped in. Going into a very steep bank now, as rockets are being fired. From the gunship, along with miniguns. Among other things, they're searching for booby traps, hidden traps that might be laid in the LZ. Also, it's impossible to determine exactly who might be down there. Should Charlie be down there in his hiding place, the gunner should uncover something. Coming very low to the ground now, very low. We're right at treetop level. As we look out, we see a sortie of 5 coming in. The first Eagle flight, the infantry troop is being inserted. The gunships have done their job well.
The
Troop ships, better known as slicks, touch down on a spot marked by a smoke grenade dropped from a gunship. While the troops depart the aircraft and set up security, the gunships continue to hover the area, should their firepower be needed. With the insertion finally completed, the Robin Hoods return to LIK.
We're talking today with 5 people highly important to the successful operation of daily missions. First Lieutenant Michael Thompson, First Lieutenant Arnold Sanford, and First Lieutenant Wayne Miracle are pilots. The maintenance officer is Captain William Stewart, and working as a crew chief and gunner is Specialist Cruz.
Lieutenant Thompson, what's a typical day like here?
The crossbows usually start about 10 minutes prior to the flight. We make our way down to the PZs and LZs. Establish coordination with the CNC party and the ground unit, try to locate the friendly troops and secure the area in general.
Enjoy being with the company here?
Being with the 173rd is great because you have a part of being in something that you want to be in, and that's aviation and the 173rd. There's a lot of great guys here, and we work together as a team.
Lieutenant Sanford, a lot of times you may have been fired upon. What goes through your mind when you hear around hitting your ship?
Well, when you first get hit, you realize you're being hit, but you got the mission. You just go through it automatically. You don't even think. You just do what you're supposed to do. Then later on that night, you may think about it and get a little scared, but while it's happening, it's routine.
What do you think is the main difference between flying a gunship and flying a ship that's carrying troops?
Flying a gunship looks like they've got more freedom of flying. It's like you've got the formation. You have to stay in the formation, and you're less told what to do.
Lieutenant Miracle, can you give us some insight as to the difference between your training flying and your flying once you arrived here in Vietnam?
Well, back in flight school, normally you had somebody right with you, an IP, somebody watching over you. And when you get to Vietnam, you find that you're out on your own quite a bit. You're faced with a problem. The aircraft are getting a lot of hours on them, a lot more than they normally would back in flight school. Therefore, your maintenance comes in, plays a very important role. It's very critical. Here recently, our maintenance team was awarded best maintenance in 12th group.
Lieutenant Miracle, what goes through a pilot's mind when he realizes his craft is going to be going down?
Well, first of all, I think it's just survival. Really, you have little time for anxieties or emotions. It's just a matter of survival, doing your job. It comes automatically. You think very little about it until after it's all over with. Your procedures are drilled into you in flight school, of course, and they just become automatic reactions when the real thing, the unexpected happens.
When a pilot goes down, the rest of the people try and take care of him?
Definitely so. When the gunship goes down, or when the aircraft goes down, you have your light fire team overhead, and you've got your rest of your flight, each one of them ready to come down and get you in a minute.
Captain Stewart, can you give us an idea of the amount of maintenance it takes to keep the helicopters up in the air?
Time basically is based on a 100-hour period before the aircraft comes into periodic maintenance. We usually average around 2 to 3 up to 5 hours per flight hour. The main problem in Vietnam is the sand and the dusty conditions. They create a lot of hazardous conditions when we go into a particular area, when an aircraft goes in, and maintenance-wise and also flight-wise.
What about total work load on your men? Is this influenced by these difficulties in Vietnam?
When they come back in the evening, they are normally having to relube the aircraft daily, where normally they wouldn't have to do this after each mission. It increases their maintenance time over here.
How do you feel about your men? Have they responded to the challenge?
They have, very much so. Men are very dedicated. A lot of them are from the infantry units around. They've extended their tours of duty to serve with helicopter units, and they've been a big asset to us in every respect.
Specialist Cruz has been one of the crew chiefs for Captain Stewart. Can you tell me about crew chief's responsibilities?
We come in every night and make sure the aircraft is cleaned, and we pull the daily on it, clean the particle separator out, and also check all the oil levels. We log the time down for the aircraft also.
How do the men feel about working for the 173rd?
Well, I like it quite a bit.
Specialist Cruz, can you give me an idea of a typical day from an enlisted man's point of view here at the 173rd?
Well, they get us up usually about 5 o'clock. We eat breakfast, and we got to get ready to go. And we just go out to whoever we're going to support. And we carry troops for them all day. Usually we've been eating sea rations the last few months, so we don't have enough time to come into LIK and eat. And then we usually done about 6 o'clock in the afternoon.
Any work then later on that night?
Yes, we got to come in and check the aircraft over, check all the oil levels, make sure it's ready for the next morning.
About how much time does that occupy?
Between 2 to 3 hours. We also have to clean the machine guns.
So you're talking just about a 16-hour day of work.
Yeah.
You sleep well at night then?
Yes.
Although the mission today was just one of many run every day of the week, what impressed your reporters most was the precise execution of this multifaceted operation. It serves to show how the modern United States forces have adapted to the quick assault and rapid mobility concepts. The pilots themselves have nothing but praise for the 1st Infantry Division in air assault operations.
1st Division, as far as I'm concerned, is the best because they're really organized. In the morning we wake up, we've got a schedule to go by. Unless something happens, we go by the schedule. The whole day's planned out for us. Now sometimes we may get add-on missions, but they're really organized.
1st Division is definitely well organized. I believe what I appreciate most about them is when you get up in the morning, you have your missions right there in front of you. You know what you're going to be doing normally all day long. It's not really hit and miss type deals.
Probably the best of anybody we've worked for, and we work for quite a few people because they seem to be straight in all their combat assault missions. They seem to know what they're doing. And it's easy to work for them because they plan their missions well and they work together. And at the 1st Division, I couldn't tell you how they feel. I hope they're satisfied. I just hope they have the respect we have for them.
From the 1st Infantry Division, this has been 1st Lieutenant Forrest Brandt and Army Specialist Bill Johansson.
Duty First, the story of the 1st Infantry Division in Vietnam. Duty First, a presentation to the 1st Infantry Division Information Office in cooperation with the American Forces Vietnam Network. The story of the 1st Infantry Division in Vietnam. Into a new kind of war come the men of the Big Red One. Far from the concepts of trench warfare and front lines of World Wars I and II, today's challenge in Vietnam demands quick assault and rapid mobility techniques. In this conflict, as in every other, the 1st Infantry Division is serving the United States with honor and distinction, no matter what the task, no matter what the sacrifice.
No mission too difficult, no sacrifice too great. Duty first. The motto of the 1st Infantry Division, the Big Red One. But mottos are only words until the deeds and actions of the men who live by those words transform them into something more tangible and give them meaning. Today, Duty First takes a look at one such man, Sergeant David Stull, an infantryman with the 2nd Battalion, 16th Infantry, an American soldier fighting in a strange land, far from home, dreaming the same dreams, enduring the same hardships, and filled with the same hopes as any soldier in any war. This, then, is a profile of an American soldier. The jetliner, which will soon leave his homeland, he glances back to see a friendly hand waving or a motherly face crying. In the hard months ahead, he'll recall this scene many times, but for right now, he hesitates in the disbelief of saying goodbye to his country and all he has known.
I could see a lot of jungle for a while, and then I finally saw my first rice paddies as we were getting closer down the ground. I saw a lot of smoke. That's what bothered me. I thought the whole place was getting blown up. I felt the heat. I thought it was the jets until I walked away from the plane. The heat was still there. The smell was different. The humidity was hot. The sweat started pouring out of me. I just as shook up as anybody. After we got to the airport, they put us on buses and took us down to the 90th. We stayed there for about 3 days waiting to see what unit we'd go to. And they read my name out, and I got the big red one, which made me real happy. I was looking forward to going to that. And they shipped me to Zion. From there, I started brigade school, went through a week of brigade school. All of a sudden, one day, I found myself walking out to the field, straight to the NDP all alone. I didn't even know what an NDP was. I was out there, about 300 meters away. They dropped me off, and I walked up to the wire, and I didn't even know who to talk to. I came up to a PFC, and I asked him who was the chief honcho out there, and he pointed to a tent with some aerials around it, and he said, "Talk to the man in there. He's the guy you want to see." So I walked up there, and that guy talked to me. He laid it on me, all about Vietnam. I got there about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and 3 hours later, they took me out on ambush that night. They got my stuff ready, put it together, and about 2 hours after that, I walked into my first firefight. After they put me up on the hill, I realized what was going on, and some of the training I had in NCO school and brigade school over here in Vietnam came back to me, and I got the machine gun and I set him up in the rear. He covered the rear and did some sporadic firing. After that, I was pretty well relaxed, and I knew what I was doing, and I guess the most important thing, I didn't get shook up or anything, but I think a lot of my training came back, and that's what helped me out so much.
When a soldier sees his first defensive perimeter, he suddenly becomes part of the war. It takes time to analyze the total situation. He must study his enemy and learn from the experiences of other GIs. He is required to become familiar with the Vietnamese customs. At least for a while, it's all a bit confusing.
I found out mostly that the VC, he'll just travel in small groups. They'll hit you and they'll take off right away. They don't carry that much ammo, or they're not supported by anything, and they can't afford to stay around and fight. Even when they're wounded, they have to keep going. You won't even find them at all. Then the NVA, they're more conventional. They'll stay there and fight until you have supporting gunships or mortars or artillery coming in. They have the knowledge and the training. They'll stand there and fight toe-to-toe with you. Where the VC will just do the opposite, turn around and run. Viet Cong, they have a real big problem. They have no support. They have no means of supply except carrying stuff by hand. It's sort of a losing cause. Right now, the big campaign is pacification. We're treating the people, doctoring them up, helping them, giving them food. And when we go into a village, we set up a perimeter, and we have a few medics out there, or a doctor, and we have a few interpreters or Kid Carson scouts to go around and tell the people that we have medical treatment for them to bring themselves and their family, their children, and they come up and they get treated. They're very happy about it. They like it. And I think it's going a long ways. I think if I wanted to take something back from Vietnam, it would be a little Vietnamese girl. I think they're the most cutest and darling, precious things. They're just all sweet. They just look at you with them eyes and dark hair. It's really nice.
As the massive jungle green fatigues pass, it's sometimes difficult to realize that each man carries with him past experiences, each different and each unique from the rest of the men. The soldier plays a dual role. On one hand, he helps compose the coordinated American fighting machine. On the other, he's still a man, no two of which are quite the same.
Out here in Vietnam, at night, you have quite a lot of time to think. I think mostly, I guess, about when I got out of high school and I started my job and after that, I started motorcycle racing. And the man I used to work for, he sponsored me. He talked me into racing, and I got involved in it pretty bad. 9 years worth of it. I used to ride around the streets once in a while, back and forth to work and to the store and home again. I've raced just about all over the United States, Class A motorcycle racing. I won the California Nationals twice, and I won the Nationals in Europe once. That was in England, in Southampton. When I first went to basic training in Fort Lewis, Washington, my sponsors and that contacted the company commander, and they let me race up in Spokane, Washington, and it was quite a thrill getting out of training for a couple of days. I won that race, and then when I went to NCO school, they let me race, and they went through about the same procedure. I won that race. That was in Atlanta, Georgia, and they were very happy about that. The Army's been happy with what I've done in here so far.
The conflict in Vietnam has developed into a ground war. The soldier has had to meet the enemy in his own land and fight under the enemy's conditions. The leg soldier bears the brunt of the war. No one can dispute that, but no soldier is more respected.
The average leg soldier, in my opinion, is kind of proud because he's the guy that goes out and really meets old Charlie hand to hand and face to face. I imagine a lot of them would like to give it up, take some other easy job, but after it's all over, he was kind of proud. He's got a certain feeling being a leg. I've talked to a lot of men on tracks and artillery, mortars. They wouldn't want to trade jobs for anything to have the legs job. It's just hard, tough knocks. On RIF, usually we get in the evening before we go out on it. We get prepared that night. Morning we wake up, eat chow, go out there to the gate. We move out. The guys can expect to hit just about anything from Charlie to booby traps. They're alert. They're all ready for anything that happens. They don't say too much. It's pretty quiet all day long. I'd rate the morale as fantastically high for not going anywhere for a whole year or seeing anything, talking to anyone at home, or just getting letters. The guys do real good for the conditions that we have to live in and what we go through. The time at the beginning of your tour seems to really zip by. The weeks feel like days, but towards the end, the days feel like weeks. Sometimes it's even hard to figure out what day it is or what week it is.
Spending a year fighting in Vietnam is hard for the American soldier. He can only hope that his efforts have helped gain peace and security for a people who so badly needed his support. He'll never forget his year away from home, and he's proud of the things he was able to do.
As I look back over my tour here, which is almost up, I think about the guys that I played alongside with, fought, talked to, told my problems to, and they've helped me out a lot. It's been one heck of an experience I'll never forget. I'm sort of proud of being in the infantry here in the Big Red One. I've gained satisfaction. I think we've accomplished something while we've been over here, but I don't think the job's done yet. I think it'll be a long time before finally we can really say the job is done. The people back home would understand what we're trying to do, what we're going through. They might give us a little bit more support. And I think that's what the guys over here would like to see, is support from mostly, I guess, the young people in college. They don't understand. They've never been over here. They have no conception of what's going on. But after you're over here, you learn what it's all about, and you just want to try hard. You want to go home feeling that you've done your best, that you put out, and also feeling that you've done what was expected of you. I think when my airplane gets back to the United States and lands, when I step off the airplane, I think I'll say a little prayer. Thank God upstairs that I made it. I feel kind of bad that some of the guys didn't make it. It's a feeling only a soldier would know about.
For Sergeant David Stoll, this is Vietnam. Speaking for the 1st Infantry Division, I am Army Specialist Bill Johansson.
Duty First, the story of the 1st Infantry Division in Vietnam. Duty First, a presentation to the 1st Infantry Division Information Office in cooperation with the American Forces Vietnam Network.